Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk about a way of coming into the United States by being highly educated, okay, and the different options that occur and so forth. So let's assume that you have a PhD and you want to come into the U.S. What can you do? Okay, and there's different kinds of options. Let's start off with one where you happen to have an employer who's willing to sponsor you. Well, you can come in on the advanced degree perm, and this does take time, okay, and it does depend what country you're in. So the regulations for the advanced degree perm are the same, whether you're from India or China or the UK. That's not what changes. What changes is the waiting time. So if you're going to come on an advanced degree perm, you're going to be considered to be an EB2, that's employment-based 2 for second preference, and the waiting time will depend on how many visas have been allocated for that particular country and are backlogged in that particular country. So for example, if you happen to have a PhD and you're going to come in on an EB2 petition, if you happen to be from India, you will have the longest wait of an EB2 on the entire planet. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you a couple things. First, it tells you there's a whole bunch of real educated people in India that want to come to the U.S. And second, it tells you that the backlog is greatest from that country. So, other countries that have significant waits are China and so forth, and other, Philippines and other countries, there's no wait at all for EB2s. So, if you happen to be from India doing an EB2, you either need to prepare to wait for a few years, even if you have the PhD and the sponsor, or you have to look for some other way to come into the U.S. So with the perm, the advanced degree perm, that basically says that there's no people in the U.S. that are qualified to do what it is that you do at this particular company, and of course the company has to pay the prevailing wage, and the company also has to have the ability to pay you. So if you're going to be coming in with a PhD, your salary is going to be very high, and the net income of the company needs to be at least that amount in order to proceed forward. So if you have a company that wants to petition you that either has very few employees, that has creative accounting that shows that they have a loss or they don't make that much, that's not going to help you. They need to show more or less around, realistically for a PhD, a net income of 100 to 150,000, and it has to be for every single year up until the moment you have your interview. So if you apply today, and let's just pretend it gets approved tomorrow, and the visa number won't be available for another 8 years, they need to show the ability to pay for the next 8 years in order for you to come in. So, given that, what other things might apply? Well, if you have a PhD, you might also have awards, you might have certificates, you might be recognized internationally, you might be working on a very important project, and you might qualify for what's called the EB1, okay, EB1A. That is for extraordinary ability aliens, okay, that's what they call it, and it's essentially when you're at the top of your particular field, and you want to come in the U.S. Now, in this particular case, you don't actually have to have a petitioner or an employer. You can have this petition submitted, and if it's approved, you essentially agree you will work in that field, but then you can come and work in that field for whatever employer you want. So this is a very nice visa. There is generally no visa waiting for an EB1 category, and you get the green card relatively quickly. The downside, of course, is that it's very difficult to get. Okay, there's a lot of discretion in the officer as to whether to grant or deny it. And normally, when my office does EB1s, they're very thick, 2 to 3 inches thick, and they show all kinds of stuff. So, what can you do to have a better chance at an EB1? Well, let's just say you're an engineer, okay? If you were to try to do an EB1 just as an engineer, it's not going to go through because you have every engineer on the planet that you're competing with, and it will be very difficult to show you're at the very top of that field. So what I do is I narrow it down. So let's say you're an aeronautical engineer, okay? Well, there you've just kicked out all the other engineers that don't work on airplanes or helicopters. So then I try to narrow it down. What more, is your PhD and your experience? Maybe you work on flight control systems of the helicopters, of Apache helicopters. That's a pretty narrow field. Okay, so if you have a PhD in engineering and you're at the best in flight control systems on Apache helicopters, chances are, if it's done properly, you'll have a much better chance of coming in on an EB1. Okay, so that's another way. What other ways exist for people with PhDs? Well, a lot of people with PhDs have their own businesses. Okay, and if you have your own business and you've been running it for a year, you can open a branch office in the U.S. and you can come in what's called an L1. That's not for the green card, that's a non-immigrant visa, but you can come into the U.S., open a branch office, and eventually you can actually apply for another EB1 category. It's not this time, it's EB1C. It's not for extraordinary ability, but this time it is for multinational manager, which is just what it says. You manage two companies in two different countries, and the U.S. likes that. Okay, they like when people do that. So for those PhDs who have their own businesses, they can open up branch office, come in on an L1, and then do the multinational manager. Also, in conjunction with what I had spoken about previously about the extraordinary alien petition, you can also come in on an O1, which is the non-immigrant version of the EB1A. Okay, and it's a lot easier to get actually than the green card. So if you happen to have an employer that wants to petition you, and you're very experienced in your field with the PhD and so forth, you can try coming in on the O1. Okay, so there's other categories as well, but these are a few that are available specifically for persons who have PhDs and want to come into the United States. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and there's more videos coming in the future. Thank you. Bye.